In the last episode of Paperhats, we put a ton of effort into working on our first district in the Imperial City, the Market District. We finished placing down all the quartz on the pads, we built these neat water pools, and not to mention we built this fantastic looking building which will house 4 shops. And in this episode, I hope to get all 4 of these shops all decorated, stocked, and ready to go. But before we get into that, I'm Dr. Jankovic, welcome to the wonderful world of Everbloom. And if you're new to this channel, let me explain what the Market District's about. So instead of having a central storage for everything, I thought it'd be a little more interesting if I used my Market District to house all my goods. So all 4 of these shops will be themed by the end of the episode and stocked. I've already got what they're going to be picked out. Let's go ahead and change those signs. And before I type these out on these signs, a lot of these are inspired by real world shops. Let me know down in the comments if you recognize them. First of all, we have the World-Bound Trading Co. Next on the list, we have the Base Depot. I'd be very surprised if some of you don't know where this comes from. The third shop we have is Overworld Brick and Stone. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have the Loot Shop. That one's a little bit generic, but I promise you it is inspired by a real world company. They just have a bit of a generic name themselves. And to give a brief explanation of what each will have in stock, the World-Bound Trading Co. will have flowers, dyes, and leaves. The Base Depot will have wood variants, everything wood. Overworld Brick and Stone will be a masonry shop where we can keep all of our stone types. This will be an interesting challenge because there's so many stone variants in the game. We'll have to think of a lot of ways to put in storage. And we have the Loot Shop, which will be for all of our quote-unquote shinies. Everything we collect in the world, the treasures, things like that, diamonds, all that good stuff. Well, now that's certainly an interesting place for a trader to set up shop. Let's go see what he has. Listen, buddy, you're up on a roof. You're very high up in the air. He's got a lot of goodies, though. It'd be a shame not to make super work for me in the Market District, so I'll buy 2 of these. Unheard Nightmare will probably be good if we want to have somebody lurking in the shadows, looking for shady deals and whatnot. Jan Cat Lady absolutely needs to work in the flower shop. That is totally her style. And we can't leave Mr. Gold out, so we'll buy him too. Well, sir, thank you very much. I hope you can stay a while. What a shame. He had to go, but he really couldn't tell me why. But I think it's finally time we actually make some progress on these builds. The first thing we need to do is hide the stone brick. We need interior colors. And also we need to cover up the roof here. So we're gonna put a ceiling up here as well. There's not a whole lot to show in this process. So I think a time lapse fitting. So far, I'm really enjoying how these shops are turning out. Let's look at the interiors. So we'll start with the Loot Shop, and just remember, these aren't finished by any means. I just wanted to get the interiors done. So in the Loot Shop, I started with some cherry wood trim. I have some light blue terracotta. And the ceiling, you'll see a familiar pattern in all of the shops. It coincides with the floor here. But for this one, I have an upper layer of quartz and covered it with some blue glass. It makes it all match very nicely, although we will have to put some trim up in the corners here just to make it look a little bit better. And I realize these rooms are very oddly shaped. That's just a challenge we're gonna have to overcome, but I think there's plenty of space here to put all our displays and all the storage and everything we'll need. Next on the list, we have the Overworld Brick and Stone. Now this is a brick and stone store, so it's got to be a little bit tougher. So I went with polished deep slate bricks, all those gray blocks, and the ceiling here is actually basalt, polished basalt that is, and blast furnaces. Looks so good. Third on the list, we have Base Depot, which this is basically, if you thought of a lumber store in your mind, this is probably what you'd think of. So we have the oak logs, the stripped spruce logs, which match very, very well, surprisingly. and just a quartz ceiling. Very simple, very minimalist, but it serves its purpose as a log shop, I think. Last but not least, we have Worldbound Trading Co. This is one I've already experimented with the trim, so let me know what you think down in the comments. So as you can see here, I have just made some repeating patterns on the wall here. We started with some mossy stone brick here, and we've got the fences with all that stuff. It looks really nice. It looks kind of bulky right now, but I think once we get the displays and all the barrels with everything in it, it'll fill out this room really, really nicely. Not to mention, I made two very snazzy chandeliers in here. I would say since this is the most put together, I think we should go ahead and start on this one, get it all filled out, and then we can move on from there. So let me go get my supplies and let's get cracking. We're officially done with our first interior. Let's take a look. So as we walk in here, the first thing I wanted to put was my die. So as we walk in here, the first thing I wanted to put down were my dies here. This is probably the most common thing I'll be using, so it's good to have it right next to the front door. Beyond that, I have some extra barrels that I'm not sure how I'm going to organize these just yet, but these are going to contain all the different plants of Minecraft. I looked at a list of all the plants, and there are a lot of them. So instead of having a million barrels cover every square inch of all the walls here, I'm just going to have these barrels here, and I will categorize certain plants based on their colors, because I don't think I'm going to have thousands of plants, just a few stacks of each, so this is perfect. And then towards the back here, we have the leaf display here. This is where we're going to store all of our extra leaves when we need to store some. And across here, we have all of our saplings. I use the pots with the little pot and put the sapling in the pot trick. And down here in the floor, there's some extra barrels. It's all very organized. I gotta say, this is my favorite part of this interior. And of course, we have the sales desk here. We're going to be putting an armor stand here in just a second, and then behind we have an employees only area where we can go up here into the ceiling, and maybe we can have extra storage if we need, or we can hide stuff up here, or this space will probably get abandoned, but let me know down in the comments if you have any ideas for it. And for the armor stand inside the flower shop, there is one person on the server that stands out beyond the rest. And that does the trick. I'd say I'm getting pretty good at these armor stand things. But Tack isn't the only person I want to include. Let's add one more in here. And take a look at this one. This is the one and only Jan Cat lady on the server, and she's reaching up high to put that azalea leaf in the correct box, using a step stool and all. Just look at it. Now, that is her old skin. I will update her head. I just haven't updated the Wandering Trader pack just yet. We'll make sure to lock this last one. I have such a bad habit of accidentally destroying these things. I make sure to lock all of them now. But just take a look at this. You walk in, you see some friendly faces. I can get what I need, be on my way, and it's all neatly organized. I love how this turned out. But like I said, this is not the only one we're going to be finishing up. We need to do all three of these. So let's just go in order. Let's move on to the base depot. Now, before I show you the interior of the base depot, just keep in mind that the flower shop, I had a lot of options. I had to find places for saplings, dyes, flowers, all that mess. This one is literally just wood, so I had to keep it simple but effective. Not to mention, this was a very oddly shaped room, so I just kept it simple. I kept these all in line here in the corners. I've got every single wood type in the game, I believe. I don't think I missed one. Just got a little area rug and a sales desk over here. And I know exactly who's going to go behind here. We are going to put Superboy here because he's the only one with goggles that I know of on the server. And if you're going to be sawing logs, you probably need to be wearing goggles. So I think he's our honorary sawmill guy. And there he is. There's Superboy ready to make some sales. Next on the list is Overworld Brick and Stone. And while we didn't have a whole lot of options with the log shop, this has the exact opposite problem. There are so many types of stone in the game, and this has the same problem as the log shop. It's very oddly shaped, a lot of diagonals, but I think that'll be okay as long as we kind of stick to the same theme, using all the corners, just lining up barrels. And there may be some stone types I can group together, so I'm just gonna have to get in here and start working and see what I come up with. Once again, I think I did just about as best as I can do given the circumstances. There are a ton of stone variants in Minecraft, and I'm sure I missed quite a few of them. But these are the main ones that I come across when I'm typically building things, so I started here. Cobble and Tough, I thought I could go ahead and just combine these all into one. I can use shulker boxes to compact it down if I need to. And there's also some extra room in case I do need to expand. But, you know, both the base depot and the brick and stone store here, they're both very industrial, like supposed to be, I guess, like a hardware store, you know, very manly, I guess you could say. So we can get away with it being a bit plain as long as it houses all of our supplies. However, I did forget about the salesman here. I thought it'd be pretty funny to make Superboy the guy once again. I mean, you know, if you're going to be sawing stone this time, or working with stone, goggles would be helpful as well. So I think he's going to be the guy. Not to mention, it's super funny to have Superboy in this store. And in this store, he is our most productive store manager. But that means we're 3 out of 4 done here, and we saved the best for last, I think. We need to do the Shinies store, or the loot shop, the actual name is. This one has to be a little bit more meticulous. It's got to look a little bit better than the other 3. Well, minus the flower shop. The flower shop was also pretty. I think I'm going to spend a lot of time in here, but this one is going to house all of our treasures, all the cool things we find out adventuring. So a little extra care's got to go into this one. Not to mention there's a whole lot of variety here, so we do need to also leave room for expansion. And we're done with the loot shop, mostly. Now, when you walk into a really fancy jewelry store, you'll notice that it's kind of minimalistic here. So I tried to keep with that, and I just put some display cases down on the ground, which I can use armor stands to position things like this. And I'll actually show you an example here in just a few. But the way we'd access our extra diamonds here is flip open this trapdoor, and then there's a barrel right underneath. Since this is supposed to be like a jewelry counter, it would have been weird if I made it too tall like this. And throughout this entire build, I just put down a lot of extra storage. With new updates and me not being too much of an adventurer, I don't find a whole lot of stuff, so I'm not really sure what kind of shinies I do want to keep in here. So I wanted to keep my options open. So far, I have emeralds and enchanted golden apples, hearts of the sea, things like that. But as we think of more treasure, I will try to spread them out throughout the store so it does look filled. And honestly, I'm not expecting to use every single slot through this whole season. But who knows, we may actually do that. But what I'm most proud of are these lamps here. I actually used armor stands with these. And the bottom here is actually a dark oak trapdoor positioned to look like a little stand, and then when you put a block on an armor stand's head, it's big, but it's not as big as a full block, so you can make a really nice lampshade with it. It couldn't have turned out any better. I love these. And I know we don't have a shopkeeper in here just yet. That's because I don't have the person's head that I want to put in here. So we really only have one other option, unfortunately. Yep, that's right. Perfect. I figured I'd go ahead and just farm 3 of these. And there we go. Norsey Kelsey is going to be our loot shop person. And as you walk to the front door, she's going to greet you with a wave and I guess a smile. I've got to figure out who needs to be behind this counter. And honestly, there probably needs to be something done with the walls. It is a little bit plain. I did put some paintings down to kind of break it up, because you know when you walk into a fancy jewelry store, sometimes they kind of have some weird art on the walls. So I wanted to include that. And this one over here is absolutely perfect. But I told you I'd put something in one of these display cases for you, so let's do that. For this one, we're going to put an enchanted golden apple into it. So for this one's going to be really easy, because for the diamond over here, I had to do it all manually, but I copied all the pose data from this one into my book. So all I should have to do is place this armor stand down, make sure that I can hand it things, so show arms, no gravity, that's always a good idea. We want to keep the stand visible for now. I'm going to go ahead and hand it my object. Next thing we're going to do is swap the item to the head, and that's going to make it a little bit bigger, a little more prominent. And then now we can paste the data here, and it's going to make it lean back and turn invisible. Now we just have to position it. All right, that looks a little centered up. I think we could send it down a couple pixels. Perfect, there we go. It's just a little further down so that glass border doesn't get in the way of it. That looks really nice. Perfect, so now we have successfully built 4 interiors completely. It looks so nice. I do need to move some items in, but we've got a ton of shulkers over here. Quite the shulker monster that we can take things from and hopefully fill out a lot of this stuff. A lot of these things that are just scattered around are going to have their own shop. But there is one thing I did forget to do to the outside of this thing. I wanted to put some cracked stone bricks, just pepper it in, not too much, because this is a well-maintained city. While structures do settle, of course, and there would be cracks, there wouldn't be many of them. So I do want to place some stuff around here just to break up the plainness of these end caps here. And just give it a little bit more to look at. So I'm gonna have to go to spawn, smelt up some cracked stone brick, and I'll be right back. I'm back with some cracked stone brick, and honestly, I think I want to change out these cobblestone walls. I believe I want to add in just a bit more contrast with some deep slate brick walls. And now it's time to finally mix in some cracked stone brick. Now, when structures settle, normally the middle of things don't crack. It's usually around the supports and the foundation and all that. So I'm gonna try to keep this cracked stone brick next to the pillars down at the bottom here. The top of the walls are textured anyway, so we don't really need cracked stone brick up there. Maybe along the tuff a little bit, but we'll just sort of sprinkle this in just to give us a little more to look at. I think I've placed about as much cracked stone brick as I want to place. It's just sprinkled in here and there around the edges, a little bit more to look at. It may be a little more impressive in person here, but hopefully you can see it in the video. Just having a bit of variation in certain spots, it just gives you a lot more to look at. So I'm really happy how this turned out. And with that done, I am proud to announce we are finally done with our very first build in the market district. I'm so happy. We'll look at it one more time from the sky. It looks so good. I love how it turned out. I love that we have all the block palettes and everything picked out. And I am super duper excited to get this building over here worked out. I've slowly started compiling a list of all the shops I'm gonna need to put in here. I'm trying to keep it pretty compact. I can't have all the shops. I don't have a definite number yet, but I'm trying to combine as many things as possible into categories just to make it feasible. But I would say we will have at least 12 to 15 shops in here. So if you have any ideas for items I can put into a shop, leave them down in the comments. Always looking for suggestions. And with that done, I want to switch gears for just a second. In a previous episode, we participated in a build competition over at Mr. Gold's. The build competition has since concluded, and we do have a winner, which was Jan Cat Lady. I'll show you her build in just a second. In case you're unfamiliar, this is Mr. Gold's base so far. He hosted a build competition to fill out his desert oasis over here. Now, I was the first one to make a build here, this creeper shrine right over here. It turned out really great. I usually use Lightmatica, and for this, I wanted to freehand all of it, and I love how it turned out. Even though this turned out really well, I was really hoping not to be the first one to build over here, just for competitive reasons. I like to scope out my competition usually. I'm really happy with how this turned out. So I believe I was a good contender here. However, I did not win, and it was very well deserved. That Jan Cat Lady over here won with her nice little village. She put a pond, some fishing docks here, even pulled out the armor stand books. It looks so good over here. Very, very well deserved in my book. But that's not the only one. This one over here was by Superboy Gamer. I love how his turned out. Really nice block palette there. And then we have Dakota May over here. She had a little bit of a tough time staying within the region, but that's okay. It wasn't any hard borders or anything. You could go outside if you needed to. And yeah, she did an amazing job. Just look at all that texturing. So many variety of blocks. And can't forget to mention Glitch's plot over here. I believe this is Glitch. I think he took the sign down, but he was one of the contestants. Love his palm trees. Nice little build. He even incorporated some animals over there. Looks really, really good. But I came over here to first admire all these nice builds that everyone put together, and secondly, collect my prize. That's right, we did get a participation trophy, and look at that. 4 diamond blocks. That's going to buy a lot of rockets. They'll go straight back to Mr. Gold. Some golden carrots, redstone ore, which I'm going to donate to a server project at the moment. We're working on a nether hub. Ooh, some extra rockets. That's always helps. All right, let's just take that box. I guess a free shulker, even though we're the shulker people on the server. I have a whole shop for that. And not to mention, I've left my mess over here. Finally time to clean up this shulker monster. And let's head back to my base. And we're back at the base, safe and sound. I just want to say thank you again to Mr. Gold for putting that build competition together. I had so much fun building that thing, and really appreciate the prizes as well. But unfortunately, that's all the time I have left for this episode. I will see you in episode 15 the next time. I can't believe it's already almost 15 episodes. Guys, thanks so much for being here. I know I'm releasing these videos later and later, but I am pushing my boundaries as far as my creative skill, and it just takes a long time. So I also would like to mention the videos have never been performing better. You guys are absolutely loving these episodes, and we have a lot of new people recently, so welcome in. Guys, if you made it this far, I really, really appreciate you. You're my best viewers. You guys have a good one. Thanks so much. Remember to like and subscribe and all that stuff, and I will see you for the next one. Thank you again.